the Democratic platform, wants to federally protect all women and girls' right to access abortion. Right, that's going to make sure that unwanted kids aren't placed into unready households. The Democrat platform wants to raise the child tax credit to $6,000.
Right. So I mean, you're being pushed on this argument, and then you're just bringing up other arguments. You're not actually addressing my claims.
I don't know them off the top of my head. If you want, you can.
Okay, so then that's a baseless claim.
It's not a baseless claim.
Yeah, it is.
Chesbro and Eastman.
You can't provide me a specific law.
Because I can't give you the state statute?
Yeah, if you can't give me a specific law, then why should I believe you?
Their
You provided
donations,
no
Open
evidence,
Secrets
Cenk.
tells you sound exactly like mainstream media. These politicians are honorable.
You're operating
and
based
you just
off
happen to
feelings
agree with
alone.
the-
2-year-olds that are dying.
A third of my generation is gone. They are gone because of abortion.
My name is Dean Withers. I'm a 19-year-old liberal. I do political debate for a living, and today I'm surrounded by 20 Trump supporters. My next claim is conservatives don't actually care about family values.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well, man.
All right, so I think your first claim, you were saying that because Donald Trump has this past and this history, that therefore he's anti-family, and then therefore the entire Republican base is anti-family?
Well,
is that your argument?
I'd like to make two corrections here.
Sure.
So first of all, that's not like the only reason why I'd say this. It's just like one of many.
It's one of your arguments.
And then
yeah.
second of all, I wouldn't say that every conservative ever on the face of planet Earth is doesn't actually care about family values for this reason. I'd just say that this is going to be typically true.
Okay, so you think just because Donald Trump is the Republican candidate that therefore typically conservatives or Republicans are anti-family?
Well, I'd say the consideration of who the Republican Party is championing, Donald Trump, a consideration of like the consequences of pro-life legislation while not having good reason to enact that legislation in the first place, along with being anti-IVF and anti-LGBTQ+ are going to be for good reasons.
Right. So, okay, so let's look at Democrats then.
Okay.
Are you going to say that Democrats are anti-family because they elected someone like Bill Clinton and he cheated on Hillary with Monica Lewinsky? Like, is that... because I think if you are going to say that Trump makes the Republicans anti-family, you're going to have to say the same thing about Democrats and some of the candidates that they've elected.
Not necessarily, right? I think if like Bill Clinton...
Hey, let him talk. Let him talk.
When Democrats voted for Bill Clinton, did they know, like, because they had a crystal ball, that he was going to end up cheating on his wife with Monica Lewinsky?
No, they didn't.
But when you're going to vote for Trump in November, do you have the prior knowledge that he cheated on 3 of his wife? He sexualized a little girl on an interview with CBS in 1992.
Yes, but also Democrats voted not to impeach him.
Okay.
Right? So aren't all the Democrats in the House that voted to not impeach him now anti-family?
Well, first of all, I gave you 4 considerations why I'd say that the conservative voter base is going to be anti-family. That's going to be one. But I would say that, yes,
well,
the
right, we
Democrats
have to
in Congress,
look at one argument at a time.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that, yeah, this alone is necessary in saying that all conservatives are anti-family. I'd say it's one of the considerations. I would say that, yeah, like the Democrats in Congress that didn't elect to impeach Bill Clinton probably didn't do the right thing there. But then additionally, I'd say even when we look at legislation from the Democratic platform versus the Republican one, I mean, the Democratic platform, wants to federally protect all women and girls' right to access abortion. Right, that's going to make sure that unwanted kids aren't placed into unready households. The Democrat platform wants to raise the child tax credit to $6,000.
Right. So I mean, you're being pushed on this argument, and then you're just bringing up other arguments. You're not actually addressing my claims. But additionally, I don't think you can say, oh, just because I'm going to vote for this candidate because I like their policies means I'm therefore anti-family. And I think you have a lot of Republicans, myself included, that are very pro-family and that, want those things and are disgusted by Trump's previous behavior. But that's not our voting philosophy. Our voting philosophy is based off of policies and what we think are going to be best for the country. That doesn't mean we don't have disagreements with Trump and his personal life.
Yeah.
And I think with literally any candidate, you're going to have disagreements on different policies that they like and different personal behaviors and actions in their life.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that therefore I'm anti-family because I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
Well, here's the way I'd put it. I don't see how you could call yourself pro-family, turn around, platform Donald Trump with his, anti-family past, cheated on 3 of the wives, 1 with a porn star, and vote for his legislation that in turn is anti-family as well,
But
such as
again,
being
I just
anti-abortion
said
access.
that's not our voting philosophy.
You said that you voted on the context of policy, but this is also considering the policy that he wants to enact. Thanks for the conversation, man. Yeah.
I think there were two reasons why Dean chose me. I think I was probably one of the more respectful people that disagreed with him. And then the second reason is I think I actually challenged him.
He had made a claim along the lines of Bill Clinton, cheating on his wife with Monica Lewinsky and not being impeached by the Democrats in Congress, and how that may reflect some anti-family values. I think that it was probably the best rebuttal that I received from anybody today.
First, I want to shake your hand. I hope to have a respectful dialogue with you. My claim is that abortion is immoral or not justified. And so I think it kind of comes down to four main reasons. So logically, the argument is to kill an innocent human being is morally wrong. I'm sure you agree with that one. The second is that abortion is the killing of an innocent human being. So therefore, abortion is morally wrong. So that's the logical argument. But I think there's 4 points that you're going to bring up that determine whether or not a fetus is human or not. So first is size. Second is level of development. 3 is environment. And 4th is degree of dependency. So all of those things, kind of what I hear pro-choicers say, fall under those categories. And none of those categories determine human value or human worth. You being valuable as a human is based, one, in the fact that you are a human, like that you are part of the human species.
Okay.
But secondly, I would say because you are made in the image of God as well.
Okay.
And so that would be, I think, the basis of why I am pro-life.
Okay, yeah, let's have a conversation about this, man. So first of all, I'll just tell you why I'm pro-choice. So I'm pro-choice because I only value life forms that would fall into a specific conjunction of traits. I value any life form that has a conjunction between past or present and future subjective experiences, and it's not until about 20 through 24 weeks that is true of a fetus. Therefore, prior to that point, I'm not going to associate value with the life of that fetus. Second of all, you said that a human was valuable, A, because it's human, and B, it's made in the image of God. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the idea that you value it because it's made in the image of God, and that is what makes you vote for pro-life legislation. I don't think that we should be using faith-based beliefs to vote for legislation.
Why not?
Because when this has been used historically, this has led to very negative outcomes. One individual might say...
That's not true.
One moment. So one person might say that slavery is okay because God said so, and you're saying that abortion is wrong because God said so. How do we distinguish between those two statements?
See, I never said that, actually. I gave a whole logical argument that's separate from Scripture. But
Okay, we can talk about
you
that.
agreed to my first premise, so I don't even know why you're bringing it up. It just seems kind of like a red herring.
Okay.
So
Maybe I
you
misread.
agree to my first premise that killing an innocent human person is wrong, right?
I do not. So I don't
Okay.
think in all scenarios that ending the life of an innocent human being is wrong. I wouldn't say that it would
Really?
be wrong for a fetus before 20 through 24 weeks for the reason it falls outside of that conjunction of value I gave you. It doesn't have the ability to deploy first-person subjective experiences. And maybe you'll
So what
agree
does
with
that
me.
mean? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so like a first-person subjective experience is, like a type of qualia that we all experience, and what gives us an inference of the idea that you're sitting in a chair in front of a microphone, and you
Okay.
can engage with me in a subjective way. It's a little bit hard to explain, but we could sum this up as consciousness. And then second of all, let's see if maybe you agree with your first premise. Would you say it is murder to pull the plug on a brain-dead patient?
Yeah, but I think that's irrelevant to the debate.
You say that that's murder, and it's not irrelevant to the debate. So do you think that that should be made illegal?
Yeah, I think so.
To pull the plug on a brain-dead patient?
Yeah, if that person is still alive, then yeah, we cannot make that choice.
Okay.
We have to let nature take its course for that.
Okay.
something like
Maybe something else we could say here. Human life begins at the moment of conception, yeah?
Yeah, I would agree to that.
Okay, and it's murder to kill it after that. So would you say, this was a question I asked earlier, would you say that women with IUDs can be murderers? Because in some contexts, an IUD will allow for conception to occur, but then it will...
IUD, explain that.
So an IUD is a form of birth control. It's
Yeah.
inserted into a female's cervix, I believe, maybe That'll get fact checked.
Well,
in the comment
so,
section.
yeah, I
and then
mean-
what it does is in some scenarios, it can prevent conception of a unicellular zygote. In others, it will allow for conception to occur, then prevent implantation.
If
into the
conception
unborn.
happens and then the fetus is terminated, that is murder.
Okay, so you'd
Yeah.
say that some women with IUDs are murderers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
think that all murderers should go to jail?
Well, yeah, I do.
Okay, so then you'd say that some women with some forms of birth control should go to jail?
Yeah, and see now we're on a red herring though. You're
No,
talking
it's
about
called a reductio ad
policy.
absurdum.
You're talking about policy, but what?
This isn't policy.
But you're avoiding the actual discussion.
No, this isn't
the
avoiding the
actual
discussion.
discussion is what is a fetus? What is the unborn? And your only argument against that was level of development. And you said you have to be conscious that's what you value.
Okay,
Yeah?
so first of all,
Is that correct?
yeah, so
Is that
I,
your only
I only value
argument?
life forms that have a conjunction of past or present and future subjective experiences, but I would like to repeat, no, that line of questioning was not a red herring. It was using your logic to imply a certain
No, but
so one moment,
but
just
you're
allow me
getting
to
away
just
from
allow
the
me
main
30
point.
seconds to finish here, right? So the same logic you're using to imply that that abortion is murder and should be criminalized has also led you to the conclusion that women that use some forms of birth control should be sent to jail. Okay, I don't think that's logic we should
Okay,
trust
but also
because of how absurd the conclusions can be.
No, but here's the problem: is that people within the pro-life movement disagree on that stuff. So you can't use that to discredit the entire pro-life movement.
I'm using that to
But what
discredit your stance.
No, but what every pro-lifer agrees on, and what the heart of the issue is that you seem to be running away from, is what is the unborn. And so your example of consciousness falls into level of development. But so does that mean that if we have someone, and you said, I think, subjective experiences and things like that as well. Does that mean if someone is born blind and deaf, they're less of a human being?
No,
Because they can't have the same experiences as the rest of us?
So first of all, I don't think that level of experiences, like I don't know, a newborn being less conscious than you or I, that's
Yeah.
not going to determine them to have less value. My statement would be if they have any subjective experiences, they're going to have the same amount of value, and that's going to be consistent across the board. Second of all, I'm not using this determinator for moral value, that being like first-person subjective experiences, to evaluate what is or isn't a human. A unicellular zygote from the moment of conception is a human, as determined by biologists, right? They have unique human DNA, right? My assertion here is that I do not value the fetus prior to that point because they lack this ability that is necessary for them to be harmed. They
But
don't
the
have a
problem
well-being.
is
They can't be harmed. They don't have first-person subjective experiences. And to say that all human life, regardless of the point of its development, including a unicellular zygote, is just as valuable, that's insane.
But you're putting a barrier on what is a human being.
No.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm
That's
already
what
told-
you have to do.
No.
And I mean, we all put the barrier somewhere. Pro-lifers say.
I will clarify again,
has
it's a
to
human
be-
being from the moment of
Can
conception.
I finish?
Not all human beings are valuable, of course.
Okay. What I was saying is we all put the barrier somewhere. And so pro-lifers are going to put the barrier on conception because that is when it is an independent human being. But you're putting the barrier on consciousness. And I'm saying
It's true.
so if you're going to put the barrier there, the problem is that the result of that view is that people with less consciousness have less value.
It is not.
Yes, it is.
Right,
Why is that not the case?
Yeah, because my conjunction for value is meeting the conditions of having the ability to deploy consciousness, right? But if you deploy more consciousness than another human, that doesn't mean you have more
Okay,
value than them.
deploy
Any level of consciousness, right, is going to yield the same amount of value as the next. I think that as soon as a fetus gains this ability to deploy these first-person subjective experiences, that they have just as much value as
Okay,
you or not.
deploy consciousness. So what about if you have someone that is unconscious, that cannot deploy consciousness?
Well, once
Can
again-
we just kill them?
No, because they would still meet the conditions of my conjunction for distributing more value.
What's the
That being
conditions?
past or present consciousness and future consciousness, right? So if you meet
And
that conjunction,
future consciousness.
yeah.
Okay, so if they have the potential for consciousness.
I do not think that the potential for consciousness in the future on its own would yield a morally valuable
Okay, so
life.
now you're walking back on.
I
what
am
you
not
just
walking
said.
back,
Yeah, you
at
did
all.
because you said.
I have a
based on
question. Is the
future-
potentiality for
Hold on.
consciousness?
Can you let me finish? Because you've been complaining about everyone interrupting, and that's fair. But I need to make my point. All
course.
right. So you were saying that you were just saying about future consciousness. And that's exactly the argument with the pro-life, is that they have the potential for that consciousness. And again, you're discriminating based on level of development. And if we were to discriminate against a toddler or whatnot based off of level of development, if that's what it means to be human, then that introduces a subjective aspect.
You're just kind of making talking points now, right? I've already clarified that this isn't what makes someone a human. This is what makes a human morally valuable.
Yeah, but
I've
the
also
problem
clarified,
is-
one moment, allow me to finish.
Sure,
Allow me to
go ahead.
finish. I've also clarified here that no, I do not value potential for future consciousness on its own. I value it in conjunct to past or present. I feel as if you are almost ignoring my argument, conceiving of an argument.
Okay, well,
in
we
your head.
have it on video of you not just saying past and present, but you saying future. So, I mean, you're walking back. If you want to admit that you're walking it back, that's fine. That's totally fine, but that's what you said.
Okay, so
You
when the
deny
that? So yeah, when the people at home watch this and scrub, their YouTube, bar at the bottom back, they will see that I said past or present consciousness and future consciousness.
Yeah, and future consciousness, exactly.
Call it conjunction.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Would you like me to describe to you what a conjunct is and why I would use that to
So, okay, so
prescribe more
you're-
value?
Good dialogue.
Welcome to part one of the special episode of Middle Ground, which is also the biggest middle ground we've ever done. I am John, and behind me I have 30 Democrats and 30 Republicans. Let's not fight, let's debate. We're gonna go through the issues that Americans care about the most in this year's election. So let's get into our first topic. Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022. This remains a very divisive issue, and the legality of abortion is uncertain. How should Americans come to a compromise on the topic of abortion?
All right, I did speech and debate for 4 years, so I'm very trained when it comes to these kind of conversations. The main issue is what is the unborn. And if we can, and that's what the sides disagree on, if we can come to an agreement on what is the unborn, policy becomes very, very clear on what we should do. And so I've had training in this area, and I know how to have conversations.
Thank you, Micah.
Anybody want to nominate somebody? I'm hearing Micah. Who else?
Micah for sure.
Can I get a raise of hands? Who would support Micah for this? That's majority. So Micah, you are our speaker. Let's go, Bryana and Micah, you now have 10 minutes to try and come to a compromise that you could both agree on the topic of abortion. Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, I just want to say the main issue is what is the unborn, right? And so we have to talk about that. Then we can talk about policy. Because if the unborn are not human or not valuable human beings, then I would agree the woman does have autonomy over it. But if it is a valuable human being, it has the right to life, and therefore we cannot be killing it. Would you agree with that framing?
I agree that a human life is valuable. However, I do believe that, again, it should be the woman's autonomy. It should be her choice, ultimately. If she has a husband, if she does not have a husband, it should ultimately be up to her, because at the end of the day, she will be the one to take care of that child.
So I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Does a woman have the autonomy to kill their infant?
We're not talking about infants.
No. I'm asking you a question.
We're not talking about infants.
I know we're not talking about
That's a
infants,
different
but-
conversation,
No.
so
So
it's
see, because you want to
pointless.
avoid it, because here's the thing: a woman does not have the autonomy to kill an infant.
That's an
Why?
infant.
Why? Because an infant
born.
is a valuable human being.
It's
Yeah,
a
so
born person.
again, so the framing of my conversation is correct. You disagree that the unborn are valuable human beings. Is that right?
I disagree that what is unborn does not have a point in time right now. They are not a living, breathing human being. They do not have a thinking mind. They do not have a beating heart. Therefore, they're not a living human being that we're talking about. We're not talking about an infant. We're talking about what's inside of that woman. At the end of the day, that woman's life, that has to be viable in order for that child's life to come into place. So if her rights are completely stripped away, if she does not have autonomy over her body, that baby can't live. You can't make a baby. We have to make the baby. So if we don't have rights
Well, it
to make
takes
the
two to
baby and to
tango,
live,
but-
it takes two to tango. It does, but what about the ones that didn't want to tango? when it was forced upon them.
So,
when
okay,
they
so
didn't
that's
have
like-
a choice
that's
to
like
be
th-
impregnated.
that's like
No, we're not talking
3.5%
about that. We're
of all
talking about the
abortions.
fact that there are women who are forced to have babies that they did not want to make. That's what we're
Okay,
talking about.
okay,
we're
but
talking about
hold
the
on.
lives
So
that are
listen,
not here
listen,
yet.
and maybe
we're
this
talking
is the
about having the
compromise.
choice
Can I
to
speak
be able
now?
to be a
'Cause
parent. No,
you're
because
just-
it's not making sense. We have
Yeah.
to make sense of the
Yeah,
fact
you're just
that
gonna
it's
steamroll me.
it's not born.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Rape and incest make up like 3.5% of all abortions, right? And so for me personally, when it comes to policy, I'm willing to allow that exception if we say, hey, the rest of abortion is okay. And so if that's a compromise you can make, I'm fine with that. Is that something you're okay with? Because I don't think so, because I just think it's a talking point to kind of distract from the main debate, which is what is the unborn. And so you mentioned viability. The problem with viability is that this changes over time based off of technology. We do not want to put what a valuable human being is based on something that can change over time. Something like, and so you talked about, they cannot think. An infant, a newborn cannot think, but we're not, that doesn't,
child.
but, okay,
We're
so
not
a
talking
born
about
child.
born children.
So a born child. So now somehow magically a child becomes a human being once it passes through the woman. Like that doesn't make any sense. What about being born gives you value as a human being?
We have to think about the fact that once that baby becomes a living, breathing soul, that person has to eat, it has to sleep, it has to be clothed, it has to be educated. If there's no access to education, if there's no access to healthcare, if there's no access to any of the many things that it takes for a person to have a viable, happy life, why are we going to force upon others to have a child that they don't want? If they don't want it, that's their right.
Okay, so I want to mention a couple things. So first, you brought up a lot of other topics that have nothing to do with this. All the
debatable.
pro-life movement is saying, do not intentionally kill a human being. That's what the pro-life is saying. And so now, and then we say, listen, the fetus is a valuable human being, right? And so those other
not a
issues
fact.
are irrelevant.
That's
They
not a
have
fact.
no, they're irrelevant to
They're not
whether
irrelevant.
yes, they're irrelevant to whether we should intentionally murder innocent babies. That's irrelevant. But secondly, you talk about the Democratic Party, you talk about someone like Tim Walz, who allows abortion up to 9 months and then refuses to sign a bill to protect babies who are born. And so if you want to look at it as a Democrat-Republican issue, even if you don't agree with me that life starts at conception, the Democratic Party is way extreme on this case, and most Americans absolutely disagree with some of the things that they're doing.
And that's the problem there. You said it perfectly, and thank you for saying that. It's not a Democratic or Republican issue. It's a human issue. It's a human issue.
Well, it is a
Forget
party
what
issue.
side you're on. Forget what side you're on. We're talking about life. It's an overall issue that you have to take account for other things, because that
So here-
child, once it's here, those other things matter.
Yes,
and so
I
when
agree.
people don't
I
choose
agree
to
those
have
other
that
things matter.
Okay,
but
so
it's like if the debate was like on whether we should intentionally kill infants. It's like I'm not
That's an
going to
infant.
bring up healthcare and the economy and all these other
You should,
things.
though.
No, you
Because
shouldn't,
those things
because
matter.
because the great
matters.
injustice is you killing an innocent human being.
right,
and we're saying that you should not do that.
I'm going to stop you both there because we've got 3 minutes. I feel like we've gotten a good sense of where you're both coming from, but now I'm going to nudge you both to start offering what you think a middle ground could be between the two of you.
I mean, I offered a middle ground. I think, we can allow exceptions for something like rape, incest, when the life of the mother is at risk. And so that's a middle ground I'm willing to take policy-wise.
It's hard for me to find a middle ground only because I believe that it should be solely that person's choice to either keep their child or get rid of that child. So it's hard for me to find a middle ground there because I believe that it should just solely be that woman's
But we
choice.
agree that autonomy isn't unlimited, right? We agree that I can't go murder people. I can't go
That's
murder
agreeable.
infants, right? I don't have that autonomy, right? And so autonomy isn't unlimited. So you can't just use that as a trump card because life is at stake. Intentional killing of innocent human beings are at stake.
Okay, so now we have to consider everything again. So, for instance, Amber Thurman, her life was at stake, but her life was lost because of policies that we're trying to defend.
Hold on, why was her life at risk?
Her life was at risk because she decided to have an abortion. She
Okay.
did. That was her choice and that was her right. her choice and her right. She chose to have that abortion, and she sat in the hospital for hours, and doctors watched as her life slipped away, and they waited until they had to cut her open. They had to cut her open.
So, question,
And
where in Republican policy?
No, we're not.
Dis-
No,
disallowed that?
we're not
Where in
going there.
Republican policy?
The fact of the matter is,
Okay.
people are losing their lives, and doctors, healthcare administrators, they're sitting there and they're allowing for women to lose their lives because of policies that people like that are deciding are more important than the lives that are already here, the lives that are viable. So now Amber, her son, is without a mother because there's policy in place in the state that she is from that states that if she is losing her life because it is an abortion, they cannot help her. They have to let her die. So now not only is the child dead, Amber's dead. Her vision's dead.
What
Her
policy, what Republican policy banned that from happening? Because you can't find that.
I heard he was saying, everything would stand as is, but one thing that he would be willing to compromise on is allowing abortions when the life of the mother is at risk, and in the case of rape and incest. And I'm just going to kind of let you can either say, no, that's not a compromise that works for me, or is there anything else you want to offer as a compromise?
No, I do agree that when a life is at stake, then it absolutely should be permitted. However, I do believe that it should be permitted at any point.
At any point. Really,
Yes.
even 9 months.
Okay, so we're
9
gonna.
months. That we're not
So the
talking about
majority
a
of
9 month.
Americans
We're not
disagree
talking.
with you.
Yeah,
a
so
woman
let's-
that
quiet,
wants
quiet,
a woman
quiet.
that wants an abortion is not waiting 9 months. So
We've run out of
that's
time,
ridiculous.
but do you want to at least say yes? I'm willing to at least say the compromise can be abortion should be allowed for when the life of the mother is at risk, and in the case of rape and incest.
No, I believe that she should have the choice to have her abortion if that is her choice.
Yeah, so you're pro-choice in all circumstances.
Correct.
Yeah, so one more time, Micah, start with you. What's your middle ground statement that you would offer?
Yeah, I would say as a middle ground, policy-wise, if I'm a policymaker, I'd be willing to compromise on cases of incest and rape, and when the life of the mother is at stake, as long as all other abortions are banned.
Okay, and then Bryana, what's your statement?
Yes, I believe women should have the full autonomy over their bodies to have the right to that abortion if that is their choice.
The war in the Middle East is escalating. What should the U.S.'s stance be?
I do not care to
I am a
debate
person
a
of
Zionist.
color.
I am
I
not
am a
debating a
person of
Zionist.
color.
You can put this in the YouTube cut 10 times. I won't do it.
Okay, I just.
Judaism is a religion of love.
Zionism is not Judaism.
Okay,
Yes, it
quiet.
is. 95%
No, it is
of
not.
Jews are
Quiet,
A
Zionists.
majority of Jews
in my-
support a
Quiet.
ceasefire.
Well, yeah, I think the gentleman that stood up shows exactly the problem and exactly what Sheila is talking about.
Quiet,
Because
quiet.
he won't even come to the table with a Zionist. Like, that is so hateful. Like, the whole point of this series is to get people to sit down to talk about the hard issues. And if we don't have the heart to do that with one another, then we're never going to get anywhere. And a question I'd like to ask is, who attacked who? It was Hamas that attacked Israel. They have a right to self-defense. And Hamas is supported by the Palestinian state. And so, they have a right to defend themselves.
Welcome back to our biggest middle ground ever. This is part 2. In part 1, we heard these two sides discuss the issues, and we even heard some middle ground solutions offered.
There are women who are forced to have babies that they did not want to make. That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
we're
but
talking about
hold
the
on.
lives
So
that are not here yet.
But in this episode, we're going to hear the two sides discuss who they think should be president, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris.
I have 2 questions that I'm going to ask the opposing side. Would you vote for someone held civilly liable of forcefully penetrating a woman's vagina against her will? Raise your hand if yes. So all of you guys that didn't raise your hand, you guys are voting for a guy held civilly liable of forcefully penetrating E. Jean Carroll's vagina against her will.
Yeah, prove it.
Okay, I just want to say, the nature of this conversation, we should be assuming good intentions on both sides of the issue. Parker, your question is aimed to make us look like bad guys. That does not do good things for our country. That is why we are so divisive. That's why there are families that are dividing, because we're calling each other bad people, as opposed to just, they have a different outlook on things. They have a different view on things. Maybe they have a different voting philosophy. Maybe for you you don't want to vote for a convicted felon. But in our opinion, he's not actually a convicted felon, and so we're gonna vote for him. Or he's not actually guilty of that crime. But the point is, we can go back and forth accusing each other of you're a bad person or you're a bad person. That doesn't do anything for the conversation. It doesn't do anything for our viewers. Let's actually go back to the issues. Let's go back to policies instead of silly questions trying to make us seem like bad guys.
My name is Stephen Bonnell. Online, I'm known as Destiny. I debate politics on YouTube at youtube.com/Destiny. Today, I'm surrounded by 20 Trump supporters. My first claim is that Donald Trump is unfit to be the US president. Hey, Stephen.
Micah. Okay, I want to talk about the alternate slate of electors and how historically that has happened before on the Democrat side. Yes, it has. In 1960, JFK against Nixon ran an alternate slate of electors in case it was overturned in Hawaii. It was eventually overturned in Hawaii, and so then those electors were certified, and JFK won the state.
So I'm glad you bring this up real quick, because this is one of the biggest pieces of shit talking points that you guys always bring up, and I don't know why. In 1960, two slates of electors were authorized by the state legislature. Both were granted the certificate of ascertainment from the governor because they knew that it was a very close election and they'd authorized a recount, and because that recount was going to go past the some mid-December date, it's December 14th for the 2020 election, but some mid-December date for when they had to certify their vote. So they said, okay, well, we'll send in both certificates, and then on the day of the counting, on January, whenever they would have done the certification in Congress, then they can choose which one was authorized by the state legislature based on the results of the recount. Donald Trump's certificates were not authorized by any state legislature.
Well,
Do you acknowledge that? Wait, real quick. Do you acknowledge real quick that none of the 7 slates that were submitted by Donald Trump, none of those were authorized by any state legislature?
Can I answer?
You're not going to.
No, I am. No, I am.
Conversation.
No. They weren't certified, and why? It's because fraud wasn't found. It wasn't proven in court.
No, you're
So that's
lying.
fine.
You're lying. They
Wait,
weren't authorized.
so you're saying fraud was found in
No,
court?
you're lying because those legislatures.
Wait, what do you say my line about?
They're lying because none of those alternate slates were arranged by the state legislatures. They were arranged by Trump and his criminal co-conspirators. None of the state legislatures, none of the state governors authorized those slates of electors.
Okay, what's wrong with that?
It's illegal, number one, and number two.
What law says that?
You have laws that are governing how you're supposed to transmit.
What law?
Do you want me to give you the specific statutes in Georgia, Arizona, New Jersey? I don't know them off the top of my head. If you want, you can.
Okay, so then that's a baseless claim.
It's not a baseless claim.
Yeah, it is.
Chesbro and Eastman.
You can't
and
provide me a
all
specific
engaged
law.
because I can't give you the state statute.
Yeah, if you can't give me a specific law, then why should I believe you? There's no justification for that. You have to provide evidence for that.
Hold on. On the contrary, are you claiming there's no formal process that's codified in the legislature for how to send transmit your electoral votes? Do they just do it randomly?
No, of course I'm saying, of course there's laws that are involved, but
Okay.
you can't point to the specific law that says that is
I don't know the numbers
And so your
of
claim is baseless.
It's always crazy to see that you guys will carry water. Even Trump's own people don't deny this because they know that they're dead to rights because the emails have leaked, the conversations have leaked, the Twitter posts are there that we can see from their accounts.
No.
Really, what did I just say that was wrong? What one thing that I just said that was incorrect?
You're
I can
getting
name 3
upset because
things.
I'm pressing you on
No,
the
I'm not.
point.
You're not pressing me at all.
Yeah, you're getting upset.
Floundering.
Dude.
You're like a magic carp. You
See,
have no idea what you're talking
when you
about.
have to resort to personal insults, that's when you know you're losing.
You already said that I was lying.
And so
you can't name a single thing I'm incorrect about. I can name multiple things you've been incorrect about. You were incorrect
and then now you're not letting me get a
1960.
word. I think
Yeah?
you're just speaking for yourself. You're making yourself look foolish.
Okay, go ahead.
But okay, yeah. I mean, there's 10 seconds.
Let's go. Give me your hardest claim.
Again, it was for the same reason. You can compare the election of 1960 to 2020. It's the exact same thing. They did that in case their cases actually came to fraud and they found fraud in the election.
That's time. Micah, please return to your seat.
My next claim is the Make America Great Again movement would not exist without massive amounts of disinformation.
All right, I want to go back to kind of your original claim, which
Disinformation.
Well, can you restate your original claim?
I think MAGA thrives on disinformation. They are in a totally different reality now than they ever have been.
So that actually wasn't your original claim. Your original claim was that
The MAGA movement wouldn't exist without the amount of disinformation. Yeah, something
Right.
like that.
Okay. So how can you possibly know that?
Well, I can't know through all possible worlds if they wouldn't.
Right. Exactly. So right off the bat, your initial claim is false.
Okay, well, if this is a philosophy 101 class, then you've completely and totally debunked me, sir. Yeah.
Wow. Great. I've debunked. Great. Well, so great. Your initial claim is false. Glad you can admit that. Now you want to go to the disinformation topic. Well, one, I think a lot of the rhetoric that you're spewing is very divisive for our nation because a lot of the times you're assuming people's intentions on these things, right? You're assuming that people are purposefully ignorant when you're in no position to actually know something like that.
I don't know if people are purposely ignorant or not. I actually, unironically, I hold the individuals a lot less accountable than I do the content creators.
Well, but you don't talk to people like that.
Well, I usually am talking to content creators. Even most of the people in here, I think, are like on TikTok or something else. I've seen a lot of these faces.
Okay, so that's an assumption without any evidence.
Hold on, are you saying that I'm assuming without evidence that most of the people that I talk to tend to be like
No, most
creators?
of the people in this room, that's what you're assuming.
Okay.
So anyways, again, you're assuming the intentions of these people, and that's not true. You're assuming that we're part of this MAGA cult, which is not true at all.
I mean, the guy here earlier literally said that Trump.
Well,
did no wrong.
well, maybe some people,
Aren't
right? And
okay.
I don't believe that Trump can do no wrong, and I think most Republicans believe that, right? I'm disgusted by some of his personal behavior. I think his stances on abortion, he's
Okay,
gone way
pause.
too far left.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Hey, well, your original claim was false, so that's great to hear.
Hi, I'm Sam Seder, host of The Majority Report, and today I am surrounded by 20 conservatives. My next claim is the GOP will destroy Social Security and health care.
Micah?
Hey, Micah.
Good to meet
Sam,
you.
nice to meet you.
There's an idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right? If you didn't save for retirement, well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from that.
Well, not swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay into it.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it does time and time again, if you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65. And it works. It works.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one, you should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like,
well, how is it failing?
Because I'm not going to receive any Social
No,
Security
I've already
benefit.
told you right
I know.
now.
I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
the main
look
issue.
at the numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? Is because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
No, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich
they
people
only
benefited more from it than low-income people? And I would say,
what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage
they
numbers,
don't
and we
need
know
the
that's
money.
not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are giving other people jobs to allow them to provide for their family.
Okay,
Listen,
pause.
Hey, go for it.
Hi, I'm Cenk Uyghur. I'm host of the Young Turks live weekdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. I'm also the head of the TYT Network. I'm also founder of Just Democrats, Wolfpack, and Rebellion Pack, where we're trying to bring the country together. And here I am surrounded by 20 Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to try to bring them together. My next claim is the Republicans only care about the rich, and everything else is a mirage.
Hey, good to meet you.
Good to meet you, brother.
All right, so I'm glad you clarified already. You're talking about Republican politicians. And you brought up donor money, and I know that's a big issue with you. But I think that's just not really how it works. I think you have a lot of politicians that start off, as you said, kind of in those lower levels. They do an office here, they do a job here, and then they slowly rise up. And if you can track their views, you see that their views don't actually really change a whole lot over time. When the donor money comes in, it's not like they suddenly change their views and they're a completely new person. They've had the views that they've had for a very, very long time. So how can you sit here, Cenk, and look in your crystal ball and say, oh, I know I can look into the souls of Republicans and say, oh, well, they're not actually genuine in some of these proposals.
Yeah. So let's take an example of a person who doesn't have a soul, Ted Cruz.
Hey, you know that? You know that?
Yeah.
Okay. How?
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, I think. Okay. So listen, he says to Tucker Carlson recently,
Yeah.
oh, yes, I've taken millions from AIPAC, but I just happen to have that position. I had it earlier. I mean, I know that AIPAC would give me millions of dollars if I say, let's give billions back from the American taxpayer to AIPAC. Let's make sure we support all their wars. Let's fight all their wars for them. Oh, look at that. I happen to agree with my donors. Hey, listen, when I started out, I really wanted to give $30 billion of subsidies to oil companies, and I still want to give $30 billion.
How do you know Ted Cruz is lying? How do you know that?
Okay, but even in that scenario, think about it, brother.
No.
There's a country.
Cenk.
Hold on.
Answer my question.
I'm answering your question.
Okay.
You're saying, okay, so in the hypothetical where we have, first of all, in the real world, there's 330 million people in the country, right? Sure. So you're saying maybe like the oil subsidy loving guys were all Republicans to begin with, and the Republicans all love oil subsidies, so it's just organic. No, brother, they're finding just a handful of people in the country that'll raise their hand and go, yes, I will do whatever corporate donors want. I will do whatever the rich want. And they go, there's a guy who agrees with me. Let's give him money. Let's give him $5,000 in the beginning, then $50,000 later, then $500,000 later.
So you didn't actually answer my question, Cenk.
What is the question?
So how do you know that Ted Cruz is being disingenuous about his views on Israel? You still haven't answered the question.
That's the easiest question in the world.
If it's so easy, then answer it for me.
Okay, so you're saying your hypothesis, my hypothesis is Ted Cruz and the politicians take millions of dollars from donors and do exactly as they're ordered. And how do I know that? Because their voting record matches with their donors perfectly. You're saying, but maybe there's a hypothetical 1 to 2% chance that Ted Cruz just was born out of the womb loving Israel's wars. And he's like, I can't wait to give money to Israel. Whereas, look at that. What a coincidence. AIPAC is giving me millions of dollars for
I
it.
actually, in politics, try to assume good intentions
That's
on
a mistake.
both sides. Well, sure, you can say that's a mistake, but I also try to make claims with evidence. And all you've said is, oh, he gets all this money from AIPAC, therefore he's corrupt.
So
as opposed to, how do you know that Ted Cruz did not have these views before, and that AIPAC wanted to support him because of the views he already had?
So your thesis is that all of the Republicans that take hundreds.
No, I've been questioning your thesis, Cenk.
Yeah, your thesis is all of these Republicans take hundreds of millions of dollars from donors. They do exactly what the donors say, but they already believed in all of the things that the donors wanted earlier, so it's just a happy coincidence.
No, it makes perfect sense.
And by the way, the mainstream media totally agrees with you.
It makes perfect sense in my mind that these organizations would only be giving money to people that they know support the cause.
That's how
not
they
a
cherry pick out of 330 million people.
That's not a crazy,
so
wild
look here,
thing to
let me tell you how politics actually
think.
works.
No,
a donor walks in
Cenk,
this room.
Can you please answer my question?
So
what evidence do you have?
So you're saying
that
I don't
Ted
have
Cruz
evidence of Ted. I can't read Ted Cruz's mind.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so brother. But by your thesis, you can't read Joe Biden's mind. You can't read Kamala Harris's mind. So they're all innocent. They're all angels. Oh my God, the donor money isn't affecting any of them.
Yes,
because I can't read their minds.
I've
but
never
I can
said
read
Joe
their
Biden's
voting,
a bad
I
person.
can read
I
their
think
voting
Joe Biden's
record.
a great person.
I can read their voting record. I could read their
You've
donations.
provided no
Open
evidence,
Secrets
Cenk.
tells you sound exactly like mainstream media. These politicians are honorable.
You're operating
and
based
just
off
happen to
feelings
agree
alone.
with the donors that gave him hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim Miller. You might have seen me on the Bulwark Podcast on YouTube or on MSNBC. I'm a liberal millennial, and today I'm surrounded by 20 Gen Z conservatives. My next claim is it is not worth the costs of gun deaths every year to have the Second Amendment. Whoa.
All right, well, first, you made the claim, so I want to hear your reasoning behind it.
Well, yeah, obviously this is a reference to the Charlie Kirk quote about how it was worth some gun deaths every year to have the Second Amendment as it's currently written. And my view is this, look, this is not an argument to repeal the Second Amendment. My point is that we shouldn't have a fatalistic view about this, to just say we have the Second Amendment, nothing we can do now, some people are going to die because of it, and so that's just the price of freedom. For example, in Canada, you have a right to bear arms still, but it's like, you have to get a license. There has to be training. You have to pass background checks.
Is that not also in the United States too?
No.
You don't need a gun license.
Well, no, but no. What I'm saying is, it's not like a driver's license. Like you don't have to like go to when you're getting a driver's license here. It's more akin to what you do in Canada. You have to go to classes. You have to
You
prove
don't have to
that
do
you know.
any classes
You have
in
to
the
prove.
United
You have to
States in
prove
order
that
to
you
buy
have
a
to
gun.
know how to use the guns. Like there is a process.
There's no process in the United States.
Well, in a lot of cases, you don't have to go through a process. Sure, people have easy access to guns in this country without going through the process. There is easy access for younger people to get high-powered weapons.
That's
in this
definitely
country.
not true. But can you name the legislation that would have prevented Charlie Kirk from being assassinated?
Well, no, because there wouldn't have been a piece of legislation that could have prevented Charlie Kirk from being assassinated. My point is that his initial claim was in service of this idea that we have a maximalist view of the Second Amendment, where there is nothing that we can do to limit gun deaths. In the United States, we had 46,000.
So
In the United States, we had 46,000 gun deaths in 2023. In Japan, they had 10.
Okay.
In France, they had 800 and something. So like, there is obviously many things that we could do to change the cultures, the rules, the laws, and the mores of this country to not have the gun deaths that we do.
I don't
and
know the statistics of these other countries. I kind of doubt that there's
Japan is
10 only.
Yeah, 10.
You're not giving me really any piece of legislation that would actually fix these things, unless you're talking about the abolition of the Second Amendment, which we can get into that. And the majority of these gun deaths are handguns. I mean, let's be honest here. They're handguns and they're suicide, right?
Yeah.
If we limit that number, if we actually take that into account, it's not really looking as bad as
it's looking. It's looking pretty bad. Again, 46,000 versus 10 is a pretty big gap. The suicide,
but how many
percent?
What percentage of that?
I think about half of them are suicides.
And what percentage of that is handguns? Are you advocating for banning handguns?
A bunch of handguns. I'd like to answer this. I think this is an important question because a suicide attempt via handgun. Now I'm going from memory, so these stats might not be exactly right, but it's something like if you try to kill yourself with a handgun, you get it right like 9 out of 10 times, basically, right? If you try to kill yourself using a lot of other methods that people try to kill themselves, a lot of times it doesn't work, right? And so it increases the number of suicides in our country versus other countries because people have easy access to firearms. In our country, the amount of firearms we have in this country, the next closest country is Yemen.
Okay.
We have double the amount of them.
So tell me, what policy proposals are you proposing that would actually limit this? You can't give me a policy proposal that we don't already have.
No, I can give you a bunch that I would be for. I think we go back to the 90s assault weapons ban. I think we should limit high-capacity magazines. But here's the thing.
Would any of those have stopped the mass?
Yeah, yes. I guess this is my point. You keep saying, no, you are on the side of we should just give up, there's nothing we can do. I'm saying we're the only country where this happens.
You haven't even asked me my position, so that's not true.
All right, so you're trying to refute my claim.
I can see a case. I can see a case for like universal background checks and things like that. But ultimately, right, the pros of guns, I would say, outweigh the cons of guns.
Really?
And yes, absolutely.
Well, you're obviously more at risk of death if you have a gun. We'd all be less safer if everybody had a gun right now. Would you feel more or less safe if everybody had a gun in here right now?
I would feel plenty safe if I had a gun.
You feel more safe?
Yes, if I had a gun.
Coming to a debating show, you'd feel more safe if there were 20 youth carrying guns?
Why?
You've been eliminated by the group.
I think I will go with the gentleman that's been taking notes over here. I felt like we have some unfinished business.
My claim is from the moment of conception, abortion is a grave moral evil.
From the moment of conception, I guess I would disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I think that that abortion reaches a point where it is a grave moral evil, and I would agree with you on that. I think it's something that I fall on a disparate side with a lot of people on the left on.
I'm curious where you put the line.
I think it's complicated, but I'm pretty compelled by arguments related to the heartbeat. And I'll tell you this: I adopted my child. We had a couple of adoptions that went south, where I went and sat with mothers that were trying to make this hard choice, what to do, whether to have their child or whether to terminate the pregnancy, whether to parent the child, whether to give the child up for adoption. And so I get to sit there with them in the hospital room where you can, look at the monitor, you can see the heartbeat, you can see the little fingers. And in those rooms, like, you can feel a grave moral weight. Like, you can just feel it. Like, you can feel that the decision is a big decision. I think that when you get into now the nitty-gritty of like how the government remediates that, like, I think that there are different questions, different opportunities and questions we can have.
This is obviously a really important thing, just given the numbers, right? And so I think someone said earlier, it's almost like a third of Gen Z is not here because of abortion. And so whether, where we put the line is actually a huge thing that we need to get right on, because human rights, right, the right to life is at stake. And so I think this is something very important that we need to think about. And so you said you're persuaded by heartbeat arguments. I'm just curious, what about a heartbeat makes you a human being, a valuable human being that's worth protecting?
Well, I think every human being has value.
Okay.
And I guess this is where I get into. I'm not trying to do a debate trick where I duck your question, because I'm happy to come back to this.
Yeah.
But this is where I do get frustrated with people on the right, and people that particularly that have supported Donald Trump, who talk about the fact that they believe that every human has value and has dignity. Because I can't think of a public figure in my entire life who has had less respect for human dignity and human life than this president.
Well, maybe Joe Biden that advocates for abortion.
Well, no. Again, you're talking about. Okay, again.
Yeah.
You're talking about just abortion, and again, we can look. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not an expert. I didn't know. Well, no, of course it's a huge issue. And like I said, I think that European countries handle. Let me just go.
Your whole argument is.
You haven't heard my argument.
Well, I know what you're going to say is Donald Trump has done all these terrible things, right? But all the conclusion is from your argument is that Trump supporters that are pro-life are hypocrites. That's it. It has nothing to do with where life begins.
We're doing this. I love that we're doing this. I'm hoping a lot of young MAGA, young conservatives are watching this.
Yeah,
particularly young Christians. I want them to watch this, and I'm hoping to try to compel them to the arguments that human life having value. If you believe that in the unborn, which I do, and I think there's some questions about 3 weeks and 4 weeks, but I believe that every human life has value. If you believe that, then it's not about hypocrisy, it's about manifesting that same view of life once the kid is born. And in this country, we are eradicating support for mothers, for single mothers who need support to help their kids. Can I finish? We are menacing.
Not really. You're kind of just taking us into an area that it has nothing to do with.
No, it doesn't. It has everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Why is abortion a grave moral evil from the moment of conception? Because every human life has dignity, right?
Well, right, because it's literally the murder of an innocent human being.
And so if every human life has dignity, then we have to treat each other as such. We cannot, and that child, when they're born, that little baby, when they're born, they need to be able to survive. So we need to make sure that they have the medical treatment to survive. No, the mothers need to have support. The kids need to be able to go to good schools.
Organizations do so much.
The kids don't want to be scared that they're going to die by a mass shooter in their schools.
Yeah, but Tim, our differences,
from another country doesn't want to be deported. I'm sorry. No.
Tim, our differences in opinion on what constitutes human flourishing when it comes to immigration or the welfare state or healthcare or all these different things.
I'm talking about human dignity.
Okay, human dignity. But our differences in our views with that have nothing to do with whether it's a human being at the moment of conception.
It has everything to do with it.
No, it doesn't, Tim. How?
It has everything to do with
What
it.
is the argument that a heartbeat is what makes a human being a valuable person?
I came from a background of pro-life, as I said, and I came as a Republican. I came from a Catholic family, and I believe that unborn life has value. but human life having value, being pro-life, means instituting a culture of life. And when I was growing up in the Republican Party and in the pro-life movement, this was something that people talked about the culture of life. It meant all the way from life until death. It meant not having the death penalty. It meant not sending people to foreign gulags. It meant being compassionate conservatism. It meant giving mothers treatment.
Tim,
it means all of those things, man.
An innocent,
and I want a culture of life
unborn
in this
human
country.
being is completely different from a criminal who has raped and murdered innocent individuals.
Okay, well, sure.
They're completely different cases.
No, we live in a society
Yeah.
where you're going to have to make laws. You have to understand the rights, because in a situation of an abortion, as you know, we are also we're talking about two human lives, excuse me. Like the life of the mother has value, in addition to the unborn life, right? And so you have to respect the rights of the mother to be able to make make judgments based on their health. The rights of the mother to make judgments based on.
Well, but we don't allow mothers, right, to murder their newborns, right, or their 2-year-olds,
Of course not.
right?
Well, I told you I'm against.
Right, exactly.
I'm against second and third trimester abortions.
I know, but you brought it up as an argument, and so we don't do that. Why is that? It's because the newborn and the 2-year-old are human beings that we need to protect, right? And so let's get back to the actual question.
Now you're bringing it back up. Let's protect the newborns. Let's protect the people that are fleeing and want to come to this country to have a life for themselves. Let's protect mothers who are disproportionately in red states who are dying in childbirth. Let's protect the kids.
Tim, do you have a single
let's
argument?
protect infant mortality.
Do you have a single argument for why the unborn before a heartbeat is not a human being and we can kill it? Do you have a single argument?
Yeah, no, my argument is basically that it's a tough judgment call, and I think that if you're making laws in a country that is not a Christian country.
How is it a tough judgment call? The science of embryology is extremely clear from the moment of conception. This is when a new, distinct human being comes into existence.
So that would make IVF illegal in a lot of cases because they're, a
lot of pro-lifers are against IVF.
Eggs.
Actually, Trump actually rescinded some of his statements and policies about IVF because he got so much pushback from the pro-life crowd.
That's what I'm saying. I think that those are really tough moral questions. Look, we don't live in a Christian. Do you want us to be a Christian nationalist country?
This is Jubilee. Like, this is where we're supposed to have these tough moral questions
and
debates.
And I'm telling you, I think that there's some areas where it's clear. I think we're not living in a Christian nationalist country. We are not living and so if you're going to live in a pluralistic society where people have different views, we have to respect the rights of the mother and the baby. Like, I just think that early on in a pregnancy, like, you have to make laws that are going to be
the
acceptable
equivalent
of society.
of going back to like when slavery was around and saying, oh well, slavery is a very complicated issue. These plantations are hiring people, right? And so exactly, that's what you're saying, and I'm saying it's actually really not that complicated of an issue. It is a human life worth protecting, and in the same way, slavery was wrong.
I just wish
absolutely.
there was that passion for life. From the life of the 1-week-old zygote, I wish we had that passion for the 2-year-olds that are dying.
A third of my generation is gone. They are gone because of abortion, Tim. This is the greatest moral tragedy. I would say even greater than the Holocaust. As far as millions of lives are being killed, if I am correct, I am very passionate about that issue because of the implications. And so, Tim, I love your heart. I really see your heart behind it. All I'm saying is, please come up with some arguments that will actually define the view or become pro-life. Or from the moment of conception, defend the unborn.
I appreciate your passion on this issue, and like you said to me, my wish for you back and for folks that have this view is that they would have the same passion for the human dignity of the people that are being badly mistreated by this administration that they do for unborn kids.
I will have that passion when abortion is completely ended in this country.
Appreciate it.
All right, Dylan. Great job.
Good to see you, man.
Good talking to you.